And now, it's time for the Well-Read Llama with your host, author Erin Mifflin.
Hello, listeners. July was a busy month for me. We helped with Vacation Bible School and Children's Camp, and we had company in our home. Even still, I've enjoyed some good books recently. I just finished The Second Chance Trailer Park by Katie Powner, and I'm currently listening to Bookmarked for Love by Sarah Monzon. I've had both of those ladies on the show before. You can find their episodes by going to my YouTube channel and looking up author Erin Mifflin. I'm about to start reading The Roman Holiday Rule by Andra Loy. I'll be having Andra on the show in a few weeks. Andra was one of my very first friends in the Christian writing community, and it is beyond thrilling to me to read her debut novel. I can't wait to tell you more about it soon. Speaking of debuts, my own debut is coming out in April, but I've got some exciting things lined up for readers before then. If you're a fan of historical romance, please follow me on Facebook or Instagram at author Erin Mifflin to keep up with all the news going on. Today, I'm delighted to speak to Janet W. Ferguson, an author of realistic and redemptive Southern fiction. I really enjoy Janet's stories, and she is a sweet friend, too. One of the things I love most about her books is the strong faith theme that she weaves in. You are going to want to learn all about this Mississippi author and then go out and see if you can get a copy of her latest book. Now, let's bring in our guest. Hello, Janet, and welcome. Can you tell us about your new release, Until April?
Yes. Until April is a modern marriage, a convenience story, which is way out of my realm of what I thought I wanted to write, but it kind of worked for this story. And it's also about the hero is not a believer. He's a scientist, and April is a believer. So that sets up a lot of tension in the story when, I don't want to give away too much of it, but, that meeting and their interactions. So he's I think one of the reviewers said a scientist with a capital S.
Oh.
So he doesn't believe in God.
So your hero, Michael, is building a life with no room for complications, as it says on the back cover. And then there's April, who has lots of complications. Did you enjoy playing those differences off of each other?
I did. That's one of my favorite things to do. I think is get people who are almost, opposites in some ways and blend them together and put them in hard situations and let them work it out. The characters, they're people in my head, but, to me, they're kind of semi-real.
Right. Now, Until April is part of your Coastal Hearts series. Can the books be read on their own, or do they need to be read in order?
They absolutely can be read on their own. I wanted to set up a series that was loosely linked, and they're all, start at least at coastal settings, and so that people could just read whichever one they wanted. And some of the characters appear from one book to the another, but it's just they're not really connected. Like you have to read them in any kind of order. So
it is kind of fun, though, if you read more of them, to see the different characters popping up in different books. Like you said, they don't have to be read in order, but if you read more than one book in the series, you'll see some of the same people in the background there.
Yeah, they just pop in at unexpected times sometimes on some of them. Because, I have the three that are set at St. Simon's, and those three books, they kind of, flow. You don't have to read them in order, but, or anything. And then some of them pop in, though, in my Dolphin Island stories that are in the Coastal Heart, which I have three of those so far. So anyway, it's kind of fun for them to pop up.
So before Until April, it had been a few years since your previous books released. Can you tell listeners some of the happy reasons that you took a little break from writing?
Yes, both of my children have gotten married in the past 3 years, and then also had a granddaughter who I take care of. So those are happy reasons that, I kind of just needed to take a break. It was, publishing and marketing and doing all the things, take up a lot of time and sitting at the computer. And so I wanted to be more available and not pressure myself. And plus, this book was really hard to put together. So I really ended up needing the time to make it work because it was a little different than your typical hero and heroine that meet and things happened because it was the modern marriage of convenience. And so I had also had to do a lot of research because him being an atheist and a scientist, I really did a lot of listening to podcasts about scientists that do believe in God and why. And a lot of them are like astrophysicists and, all kind of scientists that I could not explain, what they do or how they think. And I latched on to some of the things I learned and put them in the book, which was just a tiny, tiny infantile percentile of how they came, they believe in God despite, being scientists. I mean, they have evidence in their mind of that science proofs that there is a creator. So it was a lot of research, and I'm not a science or math person, so that took a while.
That was a little stretching for you too, then, to learn about all of that.
Yes, yeah. It was interesting though.
So many of your books have oceanfront settings, and as you might expect with a series called Coastal Hearts. Are you a fan of the beach and ocean yourself?
I love being at the beach. I love to walk on the beach for, as long as my feet can go and then turn around and walk back. I feel like every time I go, I see different treasures. Like sometimes you'll find a starfish, another time you'll find odd sea beans, and sometimes you'll, just see interesting birds. I mean, every time it's just, I feel closer to God out there with the water, and it's very relaxing to me. And so I just really like coastal settings. There's just sitting and looking at the water relaxes me. And I also think more clearly a lot of times sitting there and just enjoying nature. So yes, I love the beach. Haven't been this year, but
Oh,
that's okay. I can wait. Baby is going to be able to go soon enough.
yes. Yes. Again, that's one thing that sometimes those priorities have to shift a little bit for a while. But then, like you said, pretty soon maybe you can take the baby with you.
Right.
Mhm.
She'll be walking. I mean, she's 11 months now, so she'll be walking soon.
Okay. My one of my nieces is 11 months and she's just starting to walk too, so I can kind of picture that.
Yeah, she's cruising, but hasn't taken that, little step yet by herself. But yeah, it's a sweet age. I just didn't want her to be dragging around in the sand. And we're also doing like baby swimming lessons. One of us gets in the water with her and you do,
Mhm.
things where you practice blowing bubbles and just fun stuff. So
Oh, that's
she has
great.
no fear.
She's one of those, huh?
Yes.
Yes. Now, your book Holding On to Hope has a different setting besides the beach, and that one is set in Wyoming. Did you take
Yes.
a research trip or vacation there before you wrote that book?
I did. Yes. Hope and Caleb, that's their story. They start out at Dauphin Island, but they almost immediately go on a trip. I had gone to Jackson, Wyoming, or Jackson Hole, whichever way you want to call it. Some locals say no, we call it Jackson, and others call it Jackson Hole. But we stayed there and we did the Grand Tetons, and we also went into the national park and, did a lot of stuff that actually happens in the book. I kind of exaggerated some of them because just to make it fun, like when there's like horse riding and somebody had an incident. My daughter had a small incident doing a horse riding on a chuck wagon dinner, but I made it into a lot bigger accident. So it was kind of fun to exaggerate it and relive the trip and look at the pictures. And it's beautiful there. So yeah, I like to take a trip with my characters sometimes. I wish I had thought of a story when we went to North Dakota the next year, but I did not come up with one yet for that. So maybe someday. I don't know.
Yes. That is one thing about stories is they can be anywhere, and they give you reasons to go check out new places.
That's right. Go check out the beaches and mountains, wherever.
Yes. Now, where do you get inspiration for your stories?
That's usually, I feel like God plants a faith question in my heart or an issue, like a social issue or a personal kind of issue that I or someone else has had. So I don't know if this is one of my first books. Only book I plan to write dealt with my own anxiety disorder, and so I have a character with an anxiety disorder, not exactly like mine, but very similar. And then other ideas have come into my, just purview or whatever. Like there was a time when I was hearing a lot about human trafficking or a lot about date rape, and none of that's shown on the page, but it's a background issue that discussed in the book. And like one of them was about addiction. One of the characters had a past of addiction, where the other one had a past where she had a family member of addiction, and just how they went through it. And all of this sometimes has a lot of humor in it somehow in the story, which seems odd, but I mean, I think people get by having a little bit to laugh at, even on a serious, story. Breaks some of the tension. At least for me, it does. So as a writer and a reader, I like a little bit of a humor every now and then. So I think that is like this most recent one where God planted in my heart to wonder about, believing in science and God. So that's how my stories come about usually.
I always love hearing the different ways, that stories do come to authors. So that's very interesting. Do you have another book project you'll be working on next?
Well, if I start writing again, I say if because it's just so busy right now, I can't comprehend it. But I went to Scotland for I called it my granny moon about this time last year because I knew I wanted to help a lot, and watch our upcoming, our baby that was coming. And so I have an idea for a story set there where somebody goes because of like an ancestry.com DNA thing and, meets some relations of hers, some family members. And so of course there's going to be a Scottish guy that, is the hero.
Right.
So if I get to writing that story, that's kind of my plan. We went to Edinburgh. I'm probably saying it wrong because everybody corrects you on how you say that. And we went out to a few of the islands. That's where I could have just stayed for a long time on those islands where the little villages are and everything. So I'll probably set it more there. I might even take my character on the tour around where we went. So that's an idea. I think I could write another story set on Dolphin Island with a couple of the characters from this last book, but I just don't know their faith thread yet. So I kind of want to do a Scottish one first. But
Yes. And that sounds like that would be so fun. So you'll just have to see, where the time and inspiration happen if it's meant to be, huh?
right, yeah. And so we'll see. She'll be one. We'll see what goes on, in the next, who knows, in the next year or so.
Yes.
But it is playing in my mind a little bit. So I usually have to let things bounce around in there for a while.
Yes.
And
I
then just start
understand.
writing.
Yeah. Now, besides writing and watching your granddaughter, what are some of the other delights in your life?
Well, I like to travel, obviously. I guess I do Bible study with some close friends and all of that. I walk or exercise every day. I really like walking because I like to be outside, like I said, in nature. I find it relaxing and mind clearing. I don't have a lot of other hobbies now besides eating lately and exercising, but I do read. I read with a book club I've been in. It's a Christian fiction book club. I've been in it probably about 25 years, and we've, managed to keep it together. So we read at least this, one book together every month. So just simple things, really. My husband, we have a big yard. My husband likes to work in it. I don't really like to work in it that much, but I do like to look at it. And my son planted a garden out there. And so just, we're in Mississippi, just living this simple life most of the time. So
Well, there are plenty of joys in the simple life, especially when you have the people that you love close to you.
yes, friends, family, church friends. That's about it. Eating, like I said, I do like to try new restaurants, when I get a chance, go someplace. So
Now, you and I met in person when you were in Branson. It's been a few
yes.
years ago now. And we went to one of the local restaurants here that's called Billy Gale's, and we had pancakes. Do you remember those pancakes?
Yeah, that was fun. And I liked Branson. It was a neat place. I wish the amusement park would have been open, but we saw the
Yes.
shows and the Butterfly Museum, like I told you, was absolutely one of my favorite things to do. my mom loved butterflies. Since she passed, whenever I see one, I just think about her. So that place just meant a lot to my heart, just because, there was a whole building full of butterflies. So,
Yes.
so that was really neat. We enjoyed it. That was with my couples small group that's also been together a long time. We kind of raised our kids together and stuck together. So they're kind of like our family, here. So that was neat. And I was
Yes.
glad I got to meet you. So,
Yes, that was so much fun after we'd interacted
yes.
online, and yes, I enjoyed that. And my husband and I do go to Billy Gale's sometimes, but I we have yet to go at a time when we were able to have the pancakes. They're kind of famous for their pancakes, but we've always gone at a time when we're like, "Oh, we're so hungry, we need something else." So
Oh, yeah.
he loves pancakes,
Um,
so I'm still trying to get
oh,
back there at a good time for that.
oh, that's funny. I love pancakes. My daughter got me into, I guess I should say, it's kind of a hobby, sort of. I don't love cooking anymore, but I have a grain mill, and a lot of times now I try to grind the wheat berries in the mill and make our own bread or pancakes and stuff like that. I'm not an expert on it like my daughter is very good at it, but it's supposed to be healthy. So anyway, so
And that is
my
so
pancakes though are pretty good.
good, good. That is so tasty when you get the fresh milled grain. My mom had one when we were growing up, but I don't know what happened to it. But yeah, I remember some of those pancakes and fresh rolls and bread and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a thing now to get back to nature. We do try to go to the farmers markets and stuff like that to get, local food and all of that healthy living. At least I like it. I don't know what my husband thinks about that.
Mm,
You could probably just give him a bag of Doritos and he'd be happy. But
right. But you've got to watch out for him. So,
yeah.
Now, on your website, you mentioned that you were a prodigal as a young adult. And can you share a bit of your own story and how God called you back to Himself?
Yes, I grew up in a really sweet family. My parents were very, followers of God, and my sisters were 19 and 13 when I was born. So it's kind of a little bit spoiled child, because they were out of the house by the time I was started kindergarten. And, we were always at church and everything. But I guess when I hit my teens, it all started with telling a lie one time about where I was going, and then it went downhill from there. But I just didn't trust God to make me happy, I guess. And so I just started doing things my own way. And of course, I would, keep that a secret from my parents. And then, went to college and just did all the partying and, the young adult life. Just had a, decent job and a boyfriend and friends. And on the outside, I tell people, by my mid 20s, everything looked like I was happy, but just had this void, and it's cliche, but the hole in your heart only God can fill, or however you want to say it. But I just came to a point where I was ready to surrender all of that, where, my job, my boyfriend, my friends. Just I told God, okay, this has not made me happy. I'm going to trust you to, if you'll let me come back. And so you know, I remember in my car, I was just crying for, whatever reason. I said, okay, I'm just driving around talking to you about this, God. And, if you don't want me back, just let a tree fall on me while I'm driving around or something. But he didn't do that. So things started just changing, and I was willing to give up all those things. And before you know it, I was a stay-at-home mom, married to my husband, who I had known sort of casually at high school, but I hadn't seen, didn't really know him. And we just, got married about 6 or 7 months after we started dating. And, things went quickly from there. I started doing just like nursery classes with babies at my church. I really didn't feel worthy because I'd stepped away from God, but we're all unworthy, and God showed me that, and that I didn't have to work my way back to Him. Like a prodigal, it's the story of the prodigal is more about God than it is about the son, about how He forgives us. And there's nothing we can do to earn it, but He does it for us. So that's why, I wanted people who knew me, like way back, thinking, why is that girl writing Christian fiction? To know that, okay, yeah, I went a different path. And so that's kind of a funny story. I ended up working for my church and staff for 5 years, and then I worked as a librarian, and then for a number of years at a high school. And then I'd always been an avid reader, and so I started writing when I left the library position. So, and here I am 12 books later. I never thought I'd finish the first one. So it's kind of a cool story. It was a winding one.
Yes, it's just so amazing how God directs our paths, you know?
Yeah, and he kept me safe during all those years. I mean, I don't know why, but he did. So, you know, just could have gone a lot worse.
Now, one of the things I like to ask my guests is there a scripture that was meaningful to you while writing until April or just in your life in general?
I really liked when I started writing this series, I was just kind of obsessed with Isaiah 43. And so, I have used for each of the coastal hearts a little phrase out of that. It's, on this one, it's like, there is no other gods before me. And because it kind of goes with, the whole science over God thing. But the scripture Isaiah 43 is the one where it's like when you pass through the waters, they will not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. And it goes on and on. And I just like that scripture. It's a beautiful chapter. And so I just took a little section out of that about there are no other gods before me. And I hope I'm quoting it right. I'm not quoting it exact, but that's the gist because, anything you need gods, that we put in front of God, but none of them are satisfying.
Right. Yes.
Mhm.
And like you experienced yourself coming back to him, and as I experienced, when I came to him, when we find him, then we won't want any other gods before him because we find our fulfillment in him.
Right. Yeah. Here's the exact thing. I looked it up. Before me, there was no God formed, and there will be none after me. So that I only put like a little snippet in each of these, like in the introduction of the book, that kind of flows, to the story. But I
Yeah.
suggest anybody read the whole chapter. It's so lovely.
Well, now you have me curious. I kind of want to go look back through all those books and see the snippets that you've put in them.
Yeah, probably didn't make any sense to anybody but me.
Well, how can readers connect with you?
I have a website, janetfergusonauthor.com. I'm also on Facebook with my author page is Janet W. Ferguson. And I think I have a Twitter, but I don't remember, or whatever they call it, X account now. But the two main ones would be, my website. There's a place to contact me or on Facebook. So, my books are on Goodreads, Amazon, Book Club. I don't think you can send me a message there, but you can review it or read about them. That's the main places that you can find me. Janet Ferguson Author is like I said, my author page. So,
Listeners, please do go to janetfergusonauthor.com to check out Janet and her stories. I've enjoyed many of her books, but I have to confess that my favorite one of hers is called For the Love of Joy. It's so funny and sweet, and the characters are so great. And I thought I would read the back cover copy in case that might pique your interest in going to check out this or any of her other books. So this is For the Love of Joy. Is he married or isn't he? Years ago, a Dear John letter and then an IED explosion overseas rocked Davis Donnelly's world and left him unclear about his marital status. He'd signed divorce papers, but broken mentally and physically, he'd never bothered to find out if his marriage actually ended. Now that he's about to start a new position as an outreach minister, it's time to settle things once and for all. At the moment he tracks down his wife, or his former wife, she takes a tumble while chasing a little boy, her son. And that is when life flips upside down. Joy Jennings Donnelly made her share of mistakes, but one thing she never considered a mistake was her child, and she'll do anything to protect him, even keep his paternity a secret. When she's suddenly injured with not a soul to help her or her son, Joy is forced to rely on the man who has the most reasons to hate her. And even though there is, kind of some serious stuff in there, like Janet was mentioning, there is also plenty of humor. I laughed out loud a lot while I was reading this book. It's just really good. And so I hope that you will look into this one as well as Janet's other stories. I hope you'll also take time to go to my website, authorerinmifflin.com, to sign up for my monthly newsletter and find links to follow me on social media. As I mentioned earlier, I've got some exciting things coming up in the next few months, so it would be great to have you along for the ride. Until next time, happy reading!
Join us next week for another episode of The Well-Read Llama with your host, author Erin Mifflin. If you'd like to find out more about author Erin Mifflin, visit her Facebook and Instagram accounts.